The massive hall of the Galactic Academy sparkled with the light of 3 suns, reflecting off the polished crystal walls. 30 beings from across the galaxy stood in neat rows, their varied forms creating a living rainbow of shapes and sizes. Among them stood a single human, Jack Thompson, looking plain and unimpressive in his simple black uniform. Master Guide Blue, a tall being with shimmering scales and ancient eyes, paced before the assembled group. His long tail swished back and forth as he studied the gathered students. His gaze lingered longer on Jack, and a slight frown crossed his features. "Welcome to the first cross-species survival training program," Master Blue's voice echoed through the hall. "You have been chosen as the finest representatives of your species." He paused, his eyes again falling on Jack. "Though some choices are questionable." Quiet laughter rippled through the group. Jack stood straighter, his face calm despite the mockery. He was used to this reaction. Humans were considered primitive by most galactic standards, barely space-capable compared to the centuries or millennia of space travel other species boasted. A tall, metallic being stepped forward, its chrome surface catching the sunlight. "Master Blue, I must question the wisdom of including a Deathworlder in this program. Their primitive nature might endanger the group." Jack resisted the urge to roll his eyes. The chrome being, who introduced himself as First Student Silver, represented a species that had evolved in the perfect conditions of an artificial world. Of course they'd look down on someone from Earth. Master Blue raised a hand for silence. "The Council has made its decision. All spacefaring races must be given equal opportunity." He didn't sound happy about it, but rules were rules. The announcement screen behind Master Blue lit up, displaying their training location. "You will be transported to Training World M234, classified as a moderate difficulty environment. There you will learn advanced survival techniques using the latest galactic technology." Jack studied the planet's details carefully. Gravity 1.1 Earth standard. Atmosphere slightly denser than Earth's. Temperature range between 0 and 30 degrees Celsius. To him, it sounded like a pleasant camping trip. The other students, however, muttered among themselves about the harsh conditions. "Each of you will be equipped with survival suits," Master Blue continued, gesturing to the gleaming rows of high-tech equipment along the wall. "These suits contain environmental controls, emergency beacons, and basic survival tools." Jack stepped forward to receive his suit, noting how it was notably less advanced than the others. Budget constraints for the primitive species, no doubt. The suit felt clunky compared to the lightweight gear he'd used in Earth's special forces. As they prepared for transport, a small, floating being drifted near Jack. "I am light," it said in a whispered tone. "I've never met a Deathworlder before. Is it true you can survive without technology for days?" Jack smiled. "Weeks, actually. Or months, if we need to." Light's glow flickered in what seemed like disbelief. "But how? Without environmental controls or nutrition synthesizers?" Before Jack could answer, Master Blue called for attention. "Transport begins in 5 minutes. Remember, while this is a training exercise, M234 is still a wild planet. Stay alert, follow instructions, and rely on your technology. This is not a place for primitive survival methods." Jack caught the pointed look sent his way and smiled inwardly. Little did they know that humans had thrived for thousands of years using those primitive methods. As the transport sequence began, he wondered how long it would take before these advanced species realized that technology wasn't always the answer. The familiar tingle of teleportation washed over the group. In a flash of light, the pristine hall vanished, replaced by a vast wilderness. Trees towered overhead, their purple leaves swaying in the breeze. Strange birds called in the distance. While the others activated their suits' environmental controls and diagnostic systems, Jack took a deep breath of the alien air. It smelled like adventure, and he had a feeling these advanced species were about to learn some surprising lessons about survival from their primitive human classmate. The morning sun of M234 cast long shadows through the purple leaves as Master Blue addressed the gathered students. Today's task is simple, a 30-kilometer trek through varying terrain. Your suits will monitor your vital signs and performance. Jack noticed several students already adjusting their environmental controls. First student Silver's chrome surface gleamed as he activated his movement assist systems. Light, the floating being, had encased themselves in a protective bubble. "Begin," Master Blue announced, and the group set off. For the first few kilometers, Jack maintained an easy jog while others zoomed ahead using their suits' enhanced capabilities. Light floated nearby, curiosity evident in their gentle glow. "Why don't you activate your movement assists?" Light asked, keeping pace with Jack. Jack wiped some sweat from his forehead. "Don't need them. Humans are natural endurance runners. But you're leaking." Light's glow flickered with concern, noticing Jack's sweat. "It's how we cool down," Jack explained, breathing steadily. "It's called sweating. Helps us regulate body temperature naturally." The terrain grew steeper, and the temperature rose. One by one, the advanced students began slowing down. Their suits, while powerful, weren't designed for extended use. Warning lights flashed on their displays as power reserves dwindled. First student Silver stopped completely, his chrome surface dulled with dust. "This is impossible. The power consumption is too high for these conditions." Jack passed him, still maintaining his steady pace. "You could try walking," he suggested with a slight smile. "Walking? Like a primitive?" Silver's tone was horrified. "Our species evolved beyond such inefficient movement centuries ago." The next few kilometers revealed more struggling students. Some had completely drained their suits' power, while others were fighting with overheating systems. Master Blue watched from above on his hover platform, his expression growing increasingly puzzled. Light, who had stayed near Jack out of curiosity, was fascinated. "You've maintained the same speed for hours without any technological assistance. How?" Jack explained between steady breaths. "Humans evolved as persistence hunters. We can't run as fast as most animals, but we can run longer. It's all about pacing and cooling efficiency." The last portion of the trek involved crossing a wide valley. The three suns of M234 beat down mercilessly, raising the temperature to uncomfortable levels. Most students had resorted to calling for emergency power cells or cooling units. But Jack kept moving. Sweat soaked his simple uniform, but his breathing remained controlled. He'd fallen into what runners on Earth called the zone, that perfect state of sustained motion where distance seemed to melt away. Master Blue finally descended from his platform, landing beside Jack. "Your suit's monitoring systems must be malfunctioning. They show minimal power usage but optimal performance." "The suit's working fine," Jack replied. "I'm just not using most of its features. Don't need them." The instructor's tail twitched with disbelief. "Impossible. No species can maintain this level of activity without technological assistance in these conditions." "Humans can," Jack said simply. "We evolved on a planet that demanded this kind of endurance. It's just natural for us." As they approached the finish point, Jack wasn't first. Several students with remaining power had sprinted ahead. But he was steady, consistent, and notably, the only one who completed the trek without calling for additional resources or emergency assistance. Master Blue addressed the exhausted group at the finish. "Today's lesson was meant to teach you about resource management and technological efficiency." He paused, looking at Jack. "Instead, it appears we've all learned something about natural capabilities." The other students looked at Jack with new eyes. Light's glow had brightened with excitement, and even first student Silver seemed thoughtful. Jack just smiled, took a drink from his water bottle, and started his cool-down stretches. Day 1, and humans had already shocked their first preconception about advanced evolution. He wondered how many more surprises were in store for his classmates. The morning of the third training day brought an unpleasant surprise. As the students gathered for their navigation exercise, every piece of electronic equipment suddenly went dead. Screens flickered and died, navigation systems fell silent, and even the most basic suit functions failed. "This is unacceptable." First Student Silver's voice had lost its usual metallic smoothness. "How are we supposed to navigate without our quantum positioning systems?" Master Blue stood calmly before the panicking group. "Sometimes technology fails. This is part of your training. You must reach the marked campsite 20 kilometers north of here." "But how can we find north without sensors?" Light's glow had dimmed to a worried flicker. Jack looked up at the alien sky, studying the position of the three suns. A small smile crossed his face as he recognized familiar patterns in the strange stars still visible in the daylight. "I can lead us there," he said quietly. The group fell silent. Master Blue's tail twitched with interest. "And how would you do this, human?" Jack pointed upward. "The sun's position tells us direction and time. See that bright star? It's this planet's pole star, like our North Star back on Earth. And these moss-like growths," he touched a nearby tree, "they always grow thicker on the shadowed side. Basic navigation markers." "Absurd," Silver scoffed. "You can't possibly navigate accurately using such primitive methods." "Want to bet?" Jack asked, already starting to walk. "Those who want to reach the campsite before dark can follow me." Light immediately floated after him. After a moment's hesitation, others began to follow too. Even Silver, though he made sure to stay at the back of the group. As they walked, Jack explained his methods. "See how the ground slopes. Water always flows downhill. Following a water source often leads to settlements or designated camping areas." He stopped to examine some broken branches. "And look here, the maintenance crews that set up the campsite would have left traces. But these are just guesses," one student said uncertainly. "No," Jack replied, pushing through some purple-leafed bushes. "This is how humans navigated Earth for thousands of years before we had any technology. We learned to read the signs nature gives us." They reached a stream, its clear water flowing steadily northward. Jack stopped to take a drink, testing it first by smell and a tiny taste. "Water's safe here. Anyone need a break?" Several students watched in amazement as he demonstrated how to drink safely from a natural source without filtration technology. Light drifted closer, their glow brightening with curiosity. "How do you know it's safe?" they asked. "Running water, clear bottom, no unusual smell, local wildlife drinking upstream." Jack pointed out each sign. "Nature gives you clues if you know how to read them." As the day progressed, Jack's confidence grew. He noticed subtle signs, changes in vegetation, animal movements, the angle of the suns, all confirming they were on the right path. The other students, initially skeptical, began asking questions about his methods. Even Master Blue, who had been silently observing from the back of the group, showed increasing interest in Jack's explanations. Late afternoon found them walking into the designated campsite. They were the first group to arrive. Other students, who had struck out on their own with dead technology, started straggling in hours later. Master Blue gathered everyone around the central clearing. "Today's lesson was supposed to be about backup navigation systems," he announced. "Instead, we've witnessed something remarkable. The human has demonstrated that true survival skills don't always require technology." Jack sat quietly, sipping water from his canteen. Light hovered nearby, their glow warm with admiration. Even Silver seemed less dismissive, though he tried to hide his interest. "Tomorrow," Master Blue continued, "we will learn more about these natural navigation methods." He looked directly at Jack. "It seems we all have much to learn about truly understanding our environment." As the three suns set, casting spectacular colors across the alien sky, Jack couldn't help but smile. Humanity's primitive skills were proving more valuable than any advanced technology. And this was just the beginning. The morning sky of M234 looked wrong. Jack noticed it first. Strange, swirling patterns in the clouds and an unusual greenish tint to the air. The temperature had dropped dramatically overnight, and ice crystals were forming on the purple leaves. Master Blue's usually calm demeanor had changed. He stared at his malfunctioning instruments with growing concern. This is not possible. The planetary weather cycles aren't due to change for another 3 months. What's happening? Light asked, their glow pulsing with anxiety. The planet is entering its catastrophic season. Master Blue's tail thrashed nervously. The electromagnetic storms will disable all technology. We must evacuate immediately. He activated his emergency beacon, but nothing happened. The storms, they're already interfering with communications. First Student Silver's chrome surface had frosted over. Without our environmental suits, we'll freeze. His voice crackled with static. Jack was already moving. Everyone, gather around. We need to find shelter and build a fire. Now. Fire. Several students looked confused. Without thermal generators. Natural fire, Jack said, gathering dead branches from under the trees. Like this. He quickly arranged the wood, using dried purple leaves as tinder. From his pocket, he pulled out a simple piece of flint he'd picked up earlier. The other students watched in amazement as Jack struck his knife against the flint, creating sparks that caught in the tinder. Within minutes, a warm fire blazed in front of them. Primitive, but effective, Silver admitted, moving closer to the flames. The temperature continued to drop. Jack organized the group into teams, some gathering more firewood, others helping him construct a shelter using fallen branches and broad leaves. He showed them how to weave the vegetation into walls that would block the bitter wind. The electromagnetic storms are getting stronger, Master Blue announced, his scales dulling with worry. All our survival suits are failing. 3 students from a warm weather species had already collapsed, their bodies unable to handle the cold. Jack immediately took charge. Light, hover near them. Your energy might help warm them. Silver, your metal surface can reflect heat from the fire toward them. Jack quickly organized the shelter to maximize heat retention, using techniques he'd learned in Earth's harshest environments. How do you know all this? Master Blue asked, watching Jack work. Humans learned to survive ice ages with nothing but fire and basic tools, Jack explained, checking on the weakened students. We pass this knowledge down through generations, even though we have technology now. Because we know technology can fail. Hours passed. The storm intensified, bringing freezing rain that turned to ice on contact. The group huddled in the shelter, maintaining the fire using Jack's instructions. He taught them how to stay warm by staying active, leading them in simple exercises to keep their blood flowing. We're not going to freeze to death, Jack assured them, adding more wood to the fire. Humans have survived worse than this with less. Light, who had been helping warm the weakened students, glowed brightly with realization. This isn't really a moderate difficulty planet, is it? Master Blue shook his head. No. The classification was wrong. This is a death world, like Earth. We're lucky to have someone who evolved on such a planet with us. The storm raged through the night, while advanced technology lay useless around them. Primitive human survival skills kept the group alive. Jack stayed awake, tending the fire and checking on everyone, especially the 3 rescued students who were slowly recovering. As the first sun rose, casting weak light through the storm clouds, First Student Silver approached Jack. I was wrong about primitive skills, he admitted. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Jack nodded, adding more wood to the fire. Technology is great when it works. But humans never forgot how to survive without it. On Earth, we learned that lesson the hard way, and we'll never forget it. The storm showed no signs of stopping, but around the fire, the group had found a new appreciation for their primitive human classmate. They had survived their first night on a death world, and they had done it using methods as old as humanity itself. The storm had passed, but it left behind a changed world. The temperature remained bitterly cold, and strange howls echoed through the purple forest. Jack's instincts told him something was wrong even before they found the first tracks in the frost. "Those prints are fresh," he said, crouching to examine the deep claw marks in the frozen ground. "And big. Really big." Light hovered nervously nearby. The planet's apex predators. They usually hibernate during this season. The early storms must have awakened them. A bone-chilling roar split the air. Without their powered suits, the group was defenseless, or so they thought. "Everyone up in the trees, now," Jack ordered, his voice carrying the natural authority of someone who had faced danger before. He'd already spotted several sturdy trees with low branches. First Student Silver struggled with the concept. Climb. Without assistance systems. Move. Jack grabbed a fallen branch, quickly breaking off the smaller twigs to make a crude but effective club. The roaring was getting closer. Most of the group managed to scramble up into the trees, helped by Light, who used their remaining energy to provide illumination. Jack stayed on the ground, positioning himself between the approaching sounds and the others. Master Blue's scales had turned a pale shade of gray. "What are you doing? You'll be killed." "Humans are predators too," Jack said calmly, gripping his makeshift weapon. "We didn't always have fancy weapons. We learned to think, to use tools, to understand other predators." The creature that burst through the frozen undergrowth was terrifying. Twice Jack's height, covered in thick fur, with rows of sharp teeth and 6 powerful legs. It looked like a cross between Earth's ancient dire wolves and something from a nightmare. But Jack didn't run. Instead, he stood his ground, making himself appear larger by raising his arms and club. The beast hesitated, confused by prey that didn't flee. "Humans have something called adrenaline," Jack explained loudly, never taking his eyes off the predator. "It's our emergency response system. Makes us stronger, faster, ready to fight or run." The creature charged. Jack waited until the last second, then dodged with surprising speed. His club connected solidly with the beast's nose, one of the most sensitive spots for any predator. The creature yelped in pain and surprise. It wasn't used to prey that fought back intelligently. "Most predators aren't used to dealing with prey that can think tactically," Jack continued, circling slowly. "Humans learn to study predators, understand their weaknesses." He demonstrated by suddenly shouting and charging forward, swinging his club. The unexpected aggressive move startled the creature, making it back away. Light's glow pulsed with amazement. "He's actually scaring it." "Impossible," Silver whispered, watching from his perch. "Without any technology." The predator made one more half-hearted charge before deciding this strange creature wasn't worth the effort. It retreated into the forest, leaving Jack standing victorious with his simple wooden club. "And that," Jack said, finally letting himself breathe heavily, "is why humans survived on Earth long enough to develop technology in the first place." Master Blue carefully climbed down from his tree. "Your species, you actually evolved alongside creatures like that." "Bigger ones, sometimes," Jack replied, already gathering materials to make more clubs. "Earth's prehistoric predators were nightmare fuel. We learned to outthink them, to make tools, to work together. It's in our DNA now." The group spent the rest of the day learning how to make simple weapons and what Jack called predator protocols, rules for staying safe in dangerous territory. Even Silver found himself interested in these primitive but effective methods. "The thing about humans," Jack explained as they reinforced their shelter that evening, "is that we're not the strongest, fastest, or toughest. But we learn to be smart, to be ready, to never give up. That's how we survived our death world. That's how we'll survive here." The howls continued in the distance, but now the group felt more confident. They had something better than powered armor or energy weapons. They had human survival knowledge, passed down through generations of Deathworld survivors. Thunder cracked across the purple sky as all 3 suns disappeared behind roiling black clouds. The weather had moved beyond mere storms. It was now a planetary catastrophe. Acid rain began to fall, eating through the remaining technological equipment. The emergency extraction point is 50 kilometers away, Master Blue announced, his scales now a dull gray from stress. Without working transport or communications, we're trapped. Jack looked at the frightened group huddled in their makeshift shelter. We're not trapped. We can walk there. Through this? Silver gestured at the deadly storm. We'll die. Not if we work together, Jack said firmly. Humans have crossed deserts, climbed mountains, and survived worse storms than this. We just need to be smart about it. Light floated closer, their glow providing some illumination in the growing darkness. What's your plan? Jack quickly organized the group. First, we need better protection from the acid rain. He showed them how to make simple but effective rain covers using large leaves coated with thick tree sap. The sap's natural chemicals helped neutralize the acid. Next, food and water, Jack continued. He demonstrated how to find edible plants, showing them which ones local animals ate. He taught them to collect clean water from certain plants that naturally filtered the acid rain. But how will we find our way? One student asked. The suns are hidden. Jack pointed to the wind patterns. See how the clouds move. On a planet this size, major storms follow predictable patterns. We can use them to navigate. The group set out, following Jack's lead. He kept them moving at a steady pace, finding shelter when the storms grew too intense. When they came across a wide river of acid rain, he showed them how to build simple bridges using fallen trees. Humans call this thinking outside the box, he explained while directing the construction. When you can't go through something, you find a way over it, under it, or around it. Master Blue watched in amazement as the group worked together, using primitive tools and techniques to overcome each obstacle. Your species learns to handle chaos remarkably well. We had to, Jack replied, helping a tired student across the bridge. Earth's history is full of disasters. The humans who survived were the ones who could adapt and help others survive too. Days passed as they made their way toward the extraction point. Jack taught them more survival skills. How to make rope from plant fibers, how to use echolocation in dark caves where they sheltered, how to read weather patterns to predict the worst storms. Even first student Silver, who had once dismissed all primitive methods, found himself eagerly learning. I never realized how much knowledge your species carries, he admitted while helping to build a shelter. Our technology does everything for us. We've forgotten how to do things ourselves. One night, as they huddled around a carefully maintained fire, Light asked the question everyone had been thinking. How do you stay so calm through all this? Jack poked the fire thoughtfully. Humans have something we call grace under pressure. When things get really bad, we often become our best selves. We focus, we adapt, we survive. And most importantly, we help others survive too. The storms grew worse as they neared the extraction point. The acid rain turned to hail, and violent winds threatened to tear their shelters apart. But Jack's leadership held the group together. He turned their fear into determination, their helplessness into action. Everything on Earth tried to kill us for millions of years, he told them during a particularly rough night. But here we are, still surviving, still exploring, still helping others survive too. That's what humans do best. We endure, we adapt, and we never give up. The extraction point was now just one day's journey away. As the group settled down for what they hoped would be their last night in the wilderness, they'd realized something had changed. They weren't just survivors anymore. They were a team, brought together by crisis and led by the very primitive skills they had once dismissed. The grand hall of the Galactic Academy felt different now. The same 3 suns still shone through the crystal walls, but the 30 beings standing before the council were not the same students who had left 2 weeks ago. They stood taller, stronger, changed by their experiences. Jack Thompson stood among them, his simple black uniform still showing signs of their ordeal. Unlike the first day, no one was laughing at the primitive human now. The head of the council, an ancient being with crystalline features, spoke first. We have reviewed Master Blue's report of what happened on Training World M234. What should have been a simple survival exercise became a fight for life when the planet revealed its true nature as a death world. Light floated forward, their glow bright with excitement. We would have died without Jack's knowledge. He taught us how to survive without technology. Indeed, Master Blue stepped forward, his scales now a proud bronze color. The human not only survived but led the entire group to safety using what we had dismissed as primitive skills. Skills that proved more reliable than our most advanced technology. First Student Silver's chrome surface gleamed as he addressed the council. We were wrong to dismiss Earth as a backward world. Its harsh conditions created something remarkable, a species that truly understands survival. The council members whispered among themselves. Finally, the head spoke again. Jack Thompson, step forward. Jack moved to the center of the hall, standing straight and calm. Your actions have forced us to reconsider many things, the head continued. We have grown too dependent on technology, forgetting the fundamental skills that helped our species survive their early days. This must change. The announcement screens around the hall lit up with a new declaration. Earth is hereby classified as the premier survival training location for the Galactic Academy. Its harsh conditions and the expertise of its human inhabitants make it the perfect place to learn true survival skills. Murmurs of surprise and approval filled the hall. Jack smiled slightly, thinking of how his fellow humans would react to becoming survival instructors for the galaxy's most advanced species. Furthermore, the head announced, Jack Thompson will become the first human instructor at the Academy, teaching what we now call core survival skills, the fundamental techniques that work even when technology fails. Light zoomed excitedly around Jack's head. You'll teach us more human survival methods. Not just survival methods, Jack replied. I'll teach you how to think like humans do, how to adapt, improvise, and overcome challenges. How to use both technology and natural skills together. The head of the council raised a hand for silence. Let this be a lesson to all. True advancement comes not from forgetting our origins, but from remembering the core strengths that helped us reach the stars. The humans, whom we once dismissed as primitive, have taught us this valuable lesson. First Student Silver approached Jack. I never thought I'd say this, but I look forward to learning more primitive skills from you. Perhaps my own people can relearn what we've forgotten. Master Blue's tail swished thoughtfully. The galaxy is full of unexpected dangers. Now we know that sometimes the old ways are the best ways to face them. Jack looked around at his former classmates, now at his future students. Humans have a saying, the more things change, the more they stay the same. We reached the stars, but we never forgot what got us here. Our ability to survive, to adapt, and to help others do the same. The ceremony ended with a new tradition. Instead of the usual technological display, the students demonstrated their newly learned survival skills. They made fire without tools, found water without sensors, and showed how to think and survive using only their natural abilities. As Jack watched them, he thought about how far they'd all come. The galaxy's most advanced species had learned a crucial lesson. Sometimes the most primitive solutions were the most reliable. And now, thanks to one human's survival skills, the entire galaxy would learn to be a little more human, a little more ready to face whatever challenges the universe might throw at them.